Hello friends. In this screencast, we will be introducing and demonstrating code flow. Code flow is a culmination of two key epiphanies. Building full stack apps requires the ability to wear different thinking hats. Some examples of these thinking hats are designing a schema for a domain, designing and building UI UX for an app, designing the backend interface and implementation for an app. 1. Wearing different thinking hats is hard enough, but switching in and out of these hats all the time during the course of building and maintaining full stack apps can be exhausting. Can tooling help with this switching problem? Now, moving to the other problem, full stack web app building is dominated by incremental and iterative development as opposed to just setting a boilerplate. The same workflow keeps repeating during the maintenance phase of the apps. Examples: after you make a schema change, you need to run a migration or ensure several stubs across the stack are refreshed with schema changes. We don't know of a single solution available in the marketplace that solves these problems satisfactorily. Can tooling help with this aspect by enabling flow automation that helps alleviate the tedium of repeated workflows that keep coming up all the time once the web app is in the maintenance phase? In the initial segments of this screencast, we'll be setting up a project using AWS Amplify and deploy a schema. CodeFlow is an orthogonal solution, meaning it can be set up to work with a variety of UI full stack web frameworks. We'll be using AWS Amplify, React, JS, and Figma for our demo. Our secret sauce is just the use of Clojure all over the stack. AWS Amplify takes care of a lot of undifferentiated incidental heavy lifting associated with building full stack apps and is a good candidate to demonstrate the power of CodeFlow. Enough talk, let's get started. We'll call this project figamp SC2, standing for Screencast 2. We'll be enabling the backend admin with CodeFlow. We'll also be enabling the front end with CodeFlows. Let's see and test browser navigations. I like them one keystroke and three keystrokes separated. That is one signed into GitHub, and in addition, the other one is signed into AWS. I like to keep them one keystroke and three keystrokes separated. Now, in this window, you can see two panes. The pane on the left is from where I'll read this screencast and send commands via two Shrimux functions, ts or tsne, to the waiting command line on the right pane. The code flows are automated on top of Shrimux. In your flow state, you rarely have to leave your editor. To see how we can achieve this, you can open up Shrimux documentation and read about the CLI automation tool that I had demoed before. You can read about Shrimux here, its rationale and how it works. You can also watch this video which gives you an overview of its installation. As mentioned, we'll work in many code flow, starting with a hello world code flow named TAKU. I like to keep such four-letter words, code names, so that jumping between them is easier in BEM. Typically, such code flows begin by following some setup documentation. We can read all about AWS configure and with installation instructions from here. So this is how you can get your whole amplify setup, including configure init. It's pretty well documented. And in the second page, you can set up a full stack project using wit or white. Now we can begin creating, we can execute these steps now. We can begin creating a white React.js app. White was conceived by Ivan Yu, creator of Vue.js, to simplify the bundling process by reducing the bottlenecks developers experience when starting up development servers and processing reloads after file edits. So you can read about the rationale of white and why it has become so popular here. So we use white to create a new project, figamp SC2. It will be a React JavaScript project. Name of the project is figamp SC2. It will be a React JavaScript project. You can examine the package.json that was created as a result and see that React is 18.2.0, React DOM is 18.2.0, etc. Let's cd into the project just created. Now let's set up a tmux window for the same. Let's do the installation. Check out white tasks. Now you can choose to configure Amplify, or you may use an already existing AWS Amplify profile that we have configured before. We won't configure Amplify for this screencast and we'll use figamp demo, the profile we had configured before. So we skip this step and directly try to initialize the project by answering no to default. Let dev be the environment name when we do an init. We want Vim as our editor. We'll be using React JavaScript. We want dist as the distribution directory. We can actually use the figamp sc2 air Mumbai. We won't be using that. We'll be using a profile name that is already existing, that is figamp demo, and we need not bother about improving amplify CLI. So let's go ahead and do our init. Figamp SC2, we say no, dev is fine, we say vim here, we say JavaScript, we say React, this is fine, this has to be dist, this is fine, start is fine, AWS profile, that is true. We use the already existing profile Figam demo Air Mumbai. Now CodeFlow is an opinionated solution that can play with other UI solutions, including other opinionated solutions like Amplify, which is an AWS opinionated solution to build out internet scale backend on top of AWS building blocks. UI can be built from SDKs that then talk to such custom backends through APIs, primarily GraphQL. With its pay-per-use pricing, AWS Amplify hits the sweet spot and is perfect for startups in their early pre-PMF stages. In the next steps, we will gradually add features like GraphQL API auth and update the API step by step. This is so that other members of the team, especially UI folks, can collaborate on this project through Amplify Studio. Similar to Django Studio, but it's not as good as Django admin modules because it doesn't have good sorting of object listing pages. Nevertheless, this collaborative approach is essential for interaction. We'll create the backend. These APIs will be updated later and it will be secured through Cognito later. So we just have a routine uh, GraphQL API one to many. Let the auth expire and don't edit the schema. GraphQL, continue. No, don't edit the schema. And since it asked you to, you do an amplify upgrade to. Okay, amplify has been upgraded. API has been added. Now you can push. Say yes, we want to continue. Yes, we want code. We want JS. We want the queries to be in source GraphQL. We want all possible operations, and we want the maximum statement depth as 3, as it will be necessary for auto forms, etc. through UI. Now this deployment will take some time and will resume after it's done.